everyone. Hello, this is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. What a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday night. This week, tariffs. That is the subject of segment one. President Trump put up the first truth, and we're going to put up that first slide. Oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates. Food prices are down. There's no inflation. And the long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact that the biggest abuser of them all, China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariffs by 34% on top of its long-term ridiculously high tariffs, plus not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. They've made enough for decades, taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past, quote, leaders are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America great again. And what did President Trump do? He invited one of his biggest allies yesterday to the White House, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu from Israel, into the Oval Office. And what did Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu say? He said, we're eliminating all tariffs, so that we have free and fair trade. Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu admitted he is a capitalist and that he believes in free and fair trade. And Bibi Netanyahu said, my country will open up the door for many other countries to follow. And guess what? The second slide, the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panican, which means a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. And then we have our good friend Gunther Eagleman, who wrote this tweet, breaking, White House just confirmed there will be no 90-day pause. That has to do it with tariffs. Hold the line, Trump. And this is so important. This is so important. Now that we have, there's no more pause. Now President Trump can go in there and he can really negotiate with these countries, because we, the United States, have been screwed over for years. For years, China has been tariffing us and taxing us, and all these foreign countries have been taxing us and tariffing us for millions and billions of dollars for many, many, many years. And remember, when President Trump, before he became inaugurated, he said, we are going to go back to the days of old when I was president in 2017, and the United States is not going to keep getting screwed year after year after year. How is it that we pay China so much, but they pay us nothing? And he actually exposed with Doge how many billions of dollars are going to foreign countries. Why do you think all these Democrats have so many millions of dollars? They only make $100,000 a year, but why are they multimillionaires, millionaires? Because they're getting money from foreign countries. China was owning American farmland. That's not happening under President Trump anymore. And we see that China is starting to understand that President Trump is a different type of president than he was in 2017, but he's a different type of president, period. And he's not going to allow China or any foreign country to take advantage of us again, because they've been doing that year after year after year. And President Trump said to Israel, we're going to put a 17% tariff on you because we keep giving you $4 billion a year. And that has to do with armaments. That has to do with mass amounts of armaments that we as the United States, we give to Israel every single year. But I will tell you the difference between Israel and other countries. So yes, the United States does give $3 to $4 billion to Israel every year for armaments, but in exchange, Israel gives the United States their central intelligence, their environment, their technology, and their agricultural resources. That's why each state has a trade agreement with Israel. For example, my state of Florida, they have a direct trade agreement between Israel and Florida. And during a hurricane, during any type of natural disaster, my governor, Ron DeSantis, he calls upon Israel to come to Florida and help with any buildings that have been damaged, help with any hurricane or any massive issue. Or God forbid, we haven't had a hurricane in Florida, but God forbid anything traumatic or even snow damage. We had snow this time around in the Panhandle. They will come and they will help. Same thing in Maryland. Maryland has the MIDC, which I know for a fact Governor Wes Moore hasn't implemented, but it is a direct trade agreement between Israel and Maryland. So again, there is reciprocation there. But by Bibi Netanyahu saying, I'm eliminating all of the tariffs against the United States, that is a win for the United States, and that is a wake-up call for other foreign countries. And we have breaking. More than 50 countries have reached out to President Trump. We have that slide. or we did have that slide, but that is the slide. Breaking, more than 50 countries have reached out to President Trump. And there you go, by leading report. Well, we'll show up the slide again. Breaking, there we go. More than 50 countries have reached out to President Trump to begin negotiations following his tariff announcement. More than 50 countries. That's huge. That's a huge thing. Did we ever think that that was going to happen? Did we? Did we ever think that that was going to happen? Again, that's huge. It's a huge win. And we also have a video that we will play. Another foreign nation is coming to the table to stop their tariffs against the United States. Let's play the clip.
United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal. So we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
That's Europe, everyone. That's Europe. She said 0 for 0 tariffs. Did you ever think that Europe was going to comply with President Trump? And everyone was freaking out. Oh my God, the stock market crashed, the stock market crashed. That was President Trump warning Europe and China that the stock market will crash if you don't follow in line with what I have put in place. If you don't stop tariffing and taxing the crap out of us, your markets are going to crash. And what has happened, as you know, markets fluctuate. My father's in the financial business. He said this is exactly what was going to happen. Trump predicted all of this because Trump knows the markets like no other. As the market's crashing, guess what? They turned around when the foreign countries decided to play ball. By Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu coming to the White House yesterday, that turned the tables. And now the stock market is up. Dow Jones Industrial, NASDAQ, S&P 500. So yes, we did lose a lot of money about 3 days ago. But as you know, the markets fluctuate, and now that money is going to be regained, and we're going to build back all the goods back into this country. President Trump said, and so has Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, why can't we make things here in the USA? Why do we have to make things in China and Europe? And we know that it's, quote, cheaper to make things overseas. But again, the cost benefit of it is awful, and we get crap. And they tax the crap out of us. We don't get good quality stuff. I've bought stuff from Indonesia. I've bought stuff that says made in China. It all falls apart. We all know this. All the MAGA hats that President Trump has, it says made in the USA. He made sure that his MAGA hats were made in the USA. He paid a price for them. They're very expensive to be made in America, but he wanted everything to be made in the USA. Same thing with his ties. Same thing with his daughter Ivanka's clothing line and her jewelry line. She wanted to make sure that it was made in the USA as well, including President Trump's perfume, which I have, the Trump Girl perfume, made in the USA. All of his scarves, all of his towels, made in the USA because it's better quality. But also it's putting America first. And guess what? Americans gain jobs that way. They gain jobs in the printing press industry. They gain jobs in the t-shirt industry. They gain jobs in consumer and manufacturing. And remember, under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, manufacturing jobs were going out the woodwork. Remember Carrier air conditioning out of Indiana. This was right before Trump took office. 1,500 jobs. People were laid off. They were moving them to Mexico. All these American-based jobs. Motor vehicles. They were opening factories in Mexico and Canada and countries that don't support America. And what did President do in 2016 and 2017? He brought those jobs back. What has President Trump been doing every single day in the Oval Office? He's been contacting all of his Asian contacts, his European contacts. Because remember, he owns Trump International Hotel, Trump International golf courses. They're all over the country and the world. He's done negotiations with these foreign leaders, with these foreigners that own these big companies. And he's negotiating with them and saying, it's time. It's time for you to bring the jobs back to the USA. Under Joe Biden, you took advantage of us and your jobs fled to China, to Taiwan, to other countries. That's why there were so many Americans on unemployment. That's why people weren't getting married and having kids, because they were losing their jobs left and right. And remember, they were losing their jobs to DEI hiring, which President Trump under executive order has eliminated. So this is a huge win. for America and for the Trump administration, again, for Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu from Israel to come to America. It was a very short trip, and President Trump told him to come. He told him to come the last minute because it's right before Passover, and things are still happening in Gaza, trying to annihilate fully Hamas and trying to bring all the hostages back, but also bring back the dead hostages' bodies back to their loved ones so they could bury them properly. But he called on Bibi and he said, hey, I need you here. And you're going to be the first country to announce that you're eliminating your tariffs, which they did. So anybody that attacks the Jews, anybody that far-right crazies and leftist crazies that attack the Jews, because there's a lot of far-right activists that attack Jews on a daily basis, I hope that it stops. I hope that we can combat anti-Semitism properly and that the anti-Semitism can go on the back burner or be done, period. Because I've had enough of people attacking the Jews and attacking our biggest ally, Israel. But it's very, very important. It's very important that we understand what happened yesterday. And also, President Trump is still in negotiations with Netanyahu in regards to Mara Gaza, in regards to what's going to happen to the, quote, Palestinian people after Hamas is fully annihilated. Again, they're working with Arab nations to say, you have a choice. You can stay in Gaza, and if you cause havoc, you die. Or you can go to Jordan, you can go to Saudi Arabia, you can, hey, go to Turkey. Turkey loves this. They love the strife. They love the fight. Erdogan is not to be trusted at this moment. Now, the relationship between Netanyahu and Erdogan were broken under the Obama-Biden administration, and they were broken again under Biden-Kamala Harris administration. They know right now that Turkey is trying to be the Ottoman Empire all over again. And as you know, under the Ottoman Empire, Israel did not exist. So that's why Erdogan favors these, quote, Palestinians. So let Turkey take them. But the problem is that Erdogan favors the terrorists. He favors Hamas. It's a problem. And then we also have negotiations between Israel and Russia. Vladimir Putin said that he is not in favor of Iranians attacking Israel, and that Israel and Russia, they both have one thing in common. They want to destroy the Ayatollah Khomeini, and they also want to destroy the Houthis in Yemen because they are detriments to the oil supply that Russia needs, and that all these countries, all these Middle Eastern countries need to survive. So there's that negotiation going on. And then you have a moron, Zelensky in Ukraine, who doesn't want the war to stop because he knows if the war stops, he loses. He has to keep the war going. Because I heard from others yesterday, and I spoke to people from Belarus and other parts of the country, or parts of Eastern Europe and parts of Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia, and Moscow, that Putin is actually winning this war. And that even Ukrainians are starting to be in favor of Putin. That they know that Putin wants to end this thing. And that Zelensky has to keep the war going because he's compromised. And remember, Zelensky implemented himself so that he stays prime minister forever. It's crazy. Or president forever, excuse me. So he stays in power in Ukraine forever. So it's very hard to get him out, even though his ministry wants him out. The ambassadors want him out. We, the people of America, want him out because we've been giving him $50 billion or more. Excuse me. We've given him more, 300. It's at least 300 million to 50 billion. I mean, the number just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And the moron Zelensky keeps asking for more. He goes to the UK. He asked the prime minister of the UK to give him $2.3 billion, which the UK prime minister did. He's a sucker. A sucker is born every day. He went to Macron. Macron said we should help Zelensky keep the war alive. This is good. Because the ultimate goal is to have Ukraine as a NATO ally, which it should not be. It should not be. That would be so horrible. Horrible. And again, Zelensky's the puppet. He's bought and paid for by George Soros, working with Obama. Everybody knows this. But Zelensky's a very dangerous man. You think Putin is dangerous? Zelensky's just as dangerous. His rhetoric is dangerous. His position is dangerous. The fact that he doesn't really want to end the war is dangerous. And the fact that he keeps going to every country he can to get more money. And he has the audacity to keep begging America for money. He thinks that America is just the cash cow and will take a knee and bend a knee like Joe Biden did. And it wasn't really Joe Biden providing the money, by the way, or making or controlling the shots. It was Obama and George Soros. They were telling Biden what to do. Kamala Harris was out of it. She doesn't care. She didn't care. She just kept feeding and feeding. They just kept feeding and feeding and feeding and feeding. And again, you have certain people in power, especially the Democrats, that are working with Ukraine, that are working with terrorist organizations in Iran and so forth. That's why they have so much money. And again, we just found out that the guy, Mr. Ralph, that tried to kill President Trump near Mar-a-Lago, he was a recruiter to get people to donate money to Ukraine and to get people that Americans that served in Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran to go and serve in Ukraine and die in Ukraine. And Zelensky's okay about that. One thing about Bibi Netanyahu, he doesn't have one American soldier in Gaza. He doesn't have one American soldier in Lebanon, one American soldier in Syria. He doesn't ask for it. He doesn't want it. Now, if you're an Israeli American and you want to go over there and volunteer, that's different. But if you are a straight up American born in the USA, you want to go over there and volunteer, that's fine. But he does not put you in enemy or harm's way. He does not want Americans dying on his soil. But Zelensky doesn't give a damn. And that's what people need to understand. They really need to understand is that Zelensky continues to take advantage of us, or he's been trying to take advantage of us, even when Trump took power. And when Trump told him in the Oval Office, you don't know how we feel, you're done, get out, come back when you can negotiate like a human being, and wear a damn suit. That's how it has to be. And President Trump will tariff anybody that tries to hurt America or tries to screw we the people. We the people have hashtag enough being screwed. And again, you're starting to see the oil prices going down. We're going to be energy independent again. We're working on that with Doug Burkham and others. You're going to start to see help with our veterans now with Doug Collins and Pete Hegseth. You're starting to see the decline of anti-Semitism because of Secretary of State Marco Rubio and also Pam Bondi. And you're starting to see no more illegal crossings. You're starting to see illegal criminals being detained or arrested and sent back to their foreign countries because of Border Czar Thomas Homan and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. These are powerful people in some very powerful positions. You've seen release of certain files, the JFK files. You will get the release of the Epstein files. I know people are still mad about that, but it is coming. By Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. They're working on it. I know they're working on it. And then you have the Secretary of Defense, not the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of HUD, Scott Turner. I've been in contact with him about getting rid of Section 8 in certain historic landmarks and helping our veterans. We want to get people off the system. He doesn't want Section 8 entering beautiful areas where the people are living in homes that are $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Because when you put Section 8 in an area like that, it devalues the entire neighborhood. And the fact that, again, Governor Wes Moore implemented Section 8 in Fort Howard, he signed that bill in April 2024 to implement it in January 1st of 2025, is disgusting. That's not taking care of our veterans. It's screwing our veterans over. And that's not fair to them. But again, President Trump has to be tough on this subject. He knows about tariffs. He knows about the economy. Remember, the Trump tax cuts are going to be expanding after December of 2025. We're going to start to see more money coming through. We're going to start to see more tax cuts, which did help a lot of people. It wasn't what the Democrats said it would help the billionaires. No, it helped everybody. It helped me. It helped my father. It helped a lot of people. It helped small business, big business people. It helped lower class, middle class, upper class. It helped everybody. But the goal is to get everybody off the system because a lot of people abuse the system. Again, you want to live the American dream. If you grew up in a trailer park, you don't want your children growing up in a trailer park. You want them to succeed you. You want them to get college degrees if you don't have a college degree. You want them to go on and marry successful men and women. You want them to be successful too. That's what President Trump wants. Remember, he says we want to make America wealthy again. We want to make America rich again. We want to make America strong again. And we want to make America healthy again and make America great again. Those were his taglines after his rallies. We can't forget those words. And he also said, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never back down, we will never surrender. Because we are Americans and we bleed red, white, and blue. He said that after every single rally. And we all loved it. We all loved it, we all cheered it, and we all voted for it. And I can tell you, based on this last slide, this is exactly why I voted for President Trump. There you go. There we go. 175 billion U.S. aid to Ukraine. So I was off by many numbers. So 175 billion under Biden administration, and guess what? 0 under the Trump administration. That's right. Because as I said earlier, have been taken advantage by Zelensky and many others for years. That is the exact point that I just made. To make America rich again, to make America wealthy again, and to make America strong again. Not to have an idiot like Zelensky stronghold us and tighten our arms and twist our arms and say, oh, my poor people. No, you're not that poor. You've made your country poor. You made your bed, you lie in it. It's the same thing with Governor Westmore, begging the federal government, crying to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge on taxpayer dime, even though it was a ship that went through that damn bridge at 1:30 in the morning. Now, the insurance company of the shipping company did pay for some of it, but not all of it. And Governor Westmore, the reason he doesn't want to work with Trump on this is because he knows Trump is not going to give complete federal government money to this. Now, President Trump will come to the area. He'll come to Dundalk. He'll come to Anne Arundel County. He'll come to Baltimore County and see that there's no bridge. And so will the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. But it is not the federal government's job to fully fund the remaking of the bridge. And for Governor Westmore to wait 5 years to rebuild that bridge when the traffic is massive every day. Sometimes I drive to Dundalk. It should take me only 44 minutes. It takes me almost 2 hours. Or I go to Hunt Valley. It took me 2 hours yesterday because there's no bridge. I have friends that live in Pasadena. I used to go cross over that bridge to see them. It's Anne Arundel County. No more bridge. Takes me 2 hours now. That's craziness. And guess what, Governor Westmore? The people of Maryland have hashtag had enough. They're fed up with it. When there was a hurricane in Florida and parts of Sanibel Island, that bridge was broken off. Governor DeSantis, within weeks, put up a temporary bridge just so people could go back and forth and go to work. Governor Westmore, you won't even put up a temporary bridge just to let the people go to work and not have to be in a standstill for hours because there's only so many tunnels that people can go through. And the trucks are massive. These are massive trucks. Some of the trucks can't go through the tunnels. He did this on purpose because this was a huge trade port, international trade port. Because that bridge is gone, Maryland is broke. That bridge made people a lot of money. 32,000 people would drive up and down that bridge on a daily basis. I was one of them. So was elected official Tim Fazenmaker. Again, stop taking advantage of the system. You governors, you county executives, but foreign leaders, stop taking advantage of the USA. President Trump is back with vengeance. He's more powerful than ever. He's got the power of the purse and he's got you. He's got you at the stronghold. America's not going to be weak anymore. And President Trump said that. He's not going to take a knee or bend a knee to anyone. That's why I love the guy. thank you again, Prime Minister Netanyahu from Israel, for setting the example, for setting an amazing example of eliminating tariffs against the United States. But also, again, thank you, Netanyahu. Thank you, Prime Minister, for not abusing the United States and coming here and asking us for money and begging for it. And thank you, Prime Minister Netanyahu, for not trying to recruit American soldiers to your war, to have them die in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria and Saudi Arabia. Thank you for that. People need to understand that. They need to understand the difference between Zelensky and Netanyahu. So when people are so anti-Semitic against Israel, against the Jews, think about, which Jew do you stand by? I say Zelensky is hashtag not my Jew, hashtag never a Jew. He does not represent me at all. He is the antithesis against what Judeo-Christian values is all about. But Prime Minister Netanyahu understands Judeo-Christian values. He understands the role. He knows his place. He doesn't come here and beg and demand. It's so against the Jewish way. And again, what does Prime Minister Netanyahu offer to the United States? The Central Intelligence, the agriculture, the environment, and the technology. That's what's important. And that trade agreement, those agreements will never stop. Coming right after the break, we have a tremendous segment coming up about a female fencer who engaged in a historic protest by taking a knee. And we'll be back right after the break.
Videotapes that you're no longer able to watch? Need them transferred to DVD, Blu-ray, or your smart device? Baltimore Digital offers professional-grade VHS, mini DV, and high 8 digitizing services. We can also convert Super 8mm film too. Baltimore Digital also provides photo restoration services. Visit archive.baltimoredigital.net. Mention code Alexandra for a 10% introductory discount.
And hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. Going into segment 2 now, we're going to be discussing, and put up the first slide, a female fencer. A female fencer engages in a historic protest by taking a knee before her match against a male opponent, Redmond Sullivan. She was immediately disqualified and expelled from the tournament. Once again, a woman suffers to accommodate a delusional man. And this wonderful girl, she actually goes to school at the University of Maryland. And I have reached out to her. Stephanie Turner's her name. I have reached out to her to come on my program and to interview her. And she was on Fox News about this. And she said, the reason I took a knee is, she said, this is an unfair tournament. I'm competing against a guy. I mean, this person is a male. It is not a woman. I don't care what they identify as. They are a male. And I know that I will be unfairly treated. I will be unfairly scored, because she knows that the guy is going to be much stronger than her. He may do a little bit better than her. He's much taller than her. He has a little bit more arm strength than she does. Not to say she's not good at fencing, but she knows that it's unfair. And there was also another case in another state, I forgot the state, where it was like an archery contest. And it was a women's archery contest. And again, they had a man dressed up as a woman, claiming they were a woman competing. And one of the girls walked off. She said, this is unfair. And as you know, President Trump has been signing executive orders all over the state to say that no man should be in women's sports. Riley Gaines, the swimmer, she's the one that's been pushing this legislation state to state to state to state. She was there when President Trump signed the executive order with a bunch of kids. They signed it in Georgia. They've been signing in other states. Now, Maine has been the massive problem. The governor in Maine is a liberal crazy. And she even threatened President Trump, and she said, take me to court. And President Trump says, you're going against the executive order. She's like, I don't care. I don't care. She doesn't understand that federal overrides state. Federal will always override state. But I can tell you, as a professional opera singer and professional actress, I lost a lot of my profession due to woke culture, which President Trump and my friend Rick Grinnell have exposed, especially at the Kennedy Center. I used to sing at the Kennedy Center. I loved performing at the Kennedy Center. The reason I stopped performing is because I was mandated to take about 50 million vaccines in order to sing, which I refused. And also because I wasn't into the woke agenda. I'm not a trans. I'm not involved in that. And there's a lot of singers that are men that are changing into women, or they identify as women. They take women hormones, they take estrogen, and they lower their testosterone, and they try to sing like women. And I get screwed out of leading lady roles because of this. It's disgusting. So I highly understand what these girls are going through, especially when it comes to sports. Now, I never had to compete against a man for a tennis match or a baseball game, or softball. Thank God. I never had to deal with that as a child. This is just like a revelation now in the Gen Z generation. But I'm still competing with a man dressed as a woman who claims they're a woman, who wants to sing a big top role, female role, like Tosca or the Countess in the Motte di Figaro, which is the Marriage of Figaro, or Mimi and La Boheme, which is like a big opera, main opera by Puccini. I mean, I'm losing roles to these morons. And as you know, everything that woke does turns to crap. We all know this. So I'm just like, I'm thinking about this. I'm like looking at this, and I'm just like, this is crazy. This is insane. And for this poor fencer to be disqualified, removed from the tournament, University of Maryland attacking her. They're a very liberal college. They're actually a college that demanded vaccines. I used to sing at the University of Maryland. I used to sing at the Chelsea Center at the University of Maryland. I've been denied. I used to sing in Philadelphia all the time. I've been denied because I didn't take 50 million vaccines. Excuse me. I'm talking rapidly because I'm thinking about all this. It's reminding me, and I don't live by the past. I always live by the present and future. But think of the future of America. Think of the future of our young people. Think if you have children, if you have a daughter, or if you have a son. But really, let's do a daughter because it's the men that are in women's sports now. But if you have a daughter who wants to be a professional tennis player and she's competing against a man who's dressed as a woman, it's going to be very hard for her to win. That was the issue with Riley Gaines. She won all these medals, and then they put Leah Thompson in there. Thank God, because of her perseverance, because she fought for women, and she fought for her other female, not competitors, her team. Leah Thompson's awards, her gold medals have been revoked, dismissed, gone, because Riley Gaines stood her ground. I stand my ground every day, saying I will not compete against a man who dresses as a woman, who takes a bunch of hormones to sound like a woman, because it's fake. It's very fake. It's not real. You have to have a real woman playing Tosca. You have to have a real woman playing the Queen of the Night in the Magic Flute. Your voice doesn't sound the same. It's actually really bad as a singer to take a bunch of hormones. I was actually told when I was younger not to be on high doses of estrogen. And they always say, be very careful as a woman going on birth control, especially if it's 20 milligrams or 50 milligrams of estrogen in that birth control, because it messes up your voice. When you have too many hormones in your voice, it messes it up. I remember, well, no, I'm not going to say this, but when a woman goes through her time, her flow, the vocal cords change too. And my opera singer always she always knew. She's like, it's Aunt Flo. Like, I know your voice is not the same. So, and that's a hormone. So when you're putting in mass amounts of hormones in your bodies, it changes your voice. It changes everything. And for me to lose a chance, an opportunity to sing one of the biggest roles of my career to a man. No, I fight that every day. I call that out. Same thing in the makeup industry. I was in retail for 12 years. I used to sell makeup and skincare to multiple different skincare and makeup vendors and companies for 12 years. Again, I didn't have to compete with a man trying to be a woman, but my friends that are still in that industry, they don't get the jobs because they have men dressed as women working at Ulta's, working at Sephora's, as account executives, as account coordinators. They're losing the jobs to this woke culture. And Ulta's very liberal, and so is Sephora. And so are a lot of these department stores like Nordstrom's and Neiman Marcus and Bloomingdale's and Macy's. Maybe that's why Macy's is closing down. Maybe that's why all of these big stores are closing down. Neiman Marcus, because of the wokeness. Lord & Taylor closed down. But why do my girlfriends who have been in the makeup industry for 15 years, 12 years, 20 years, why do they have to lose their jobs to the trans community, to a man dressed as a woman? And to be honest with you, the majority of the clients don't like it. They don't like working with a woman that looks, or excuse me, a man that looks like a woman. I can tell they're uncomfortable because I see it when I go into stores. I was at an Ulta store and a woman said to one of the managers, she's like, I don't really feel comfortable working with the trans. Like, can I work with a woman? And the manager said, well, she is a woman. She identifies as a she. And the customer said, she is not a she. She's a he. I don't care what her pronoun is. Because when you go to Ulta and Sephora, they make you put your pronoun. If you're a they, them, he, she, non-binary, all that stuff. And those people should be fired. I mean, President Trump under executive order said people that work for the federal government, they have pronouns, they should be fired. Same thing with department stores, but I know they're private entities, so it's a little bit more difficult. But again, the DEI hires, the woke culture under executive order is shut down. President Trump doesn't want that. He doesn't want that at all. Again, the transgender community is less than 1% of the country, less than 1% of the population of this country, but yet they act like they're the majority. And they know that their, quote, stock is plummeting. They know that they don't really have a say anymore, but they do all these trans rallies and trans events, LGBTQ, whatever. There's all these different letters in there to try to get their voice out. Now, as my good friend Tim Fazenmaker says on the show, you have the God-given right to do whatever you want, provided you do not take that right away from another. That's 100% correct. That's a great concept. But remember what he said. You have the God-given right to do whatever you want, provided you do not take that right away from another. So I agree with that. You have the God-given right to do whatever you want. Just don't push it on me. Don't force it upon me. Don't fire me because I'm not a trans. Don't fire me because I'm not woke. Don't fire me because I'm a conservative. Don't fire me because I voted for Trump. Don't fire me because I'm a Republican. At the end of the day, we're all Americans. We shouldn't be identified by our race, our religion, our gender. That's what the Democrats do. It's divisiveness. We as conservatives, we don't do that. We just say we're all Americans. I even have like Jewish people ask me, well, how Jewish are you? Are you an Orthodox Jew? Are you traditional? Are you religious? Oh, you keep kosher, you must be a religious Jew. No, I'm an American. I don't identify myself as by my ethnicity. Now, I do talk about being Jewish. I do not hide behind my Judaism. I love being Jewish. It's one of the things that does define me. Define me. And as you see on the corner there, the left corner, I do have a custom-made dress with the Israeli flag across from it, holding up the American flag. And I am working on adding the American flag dress to that dress. So it's going to be half the American flag and half the Israeli flag dress. And I have contacted the woman that sewed the Israeli flag dress on my dress so she can sew the American flag. But I don't come out and say, hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a Jew. No, I just say I'm an American. I do not lead with my religion. I don't lead with I'm a Jewish woman. I just say I'm an American. And I shouldn't have to remind people that I'm a woman. I shouldn't have to show everyone I'm a woman. And I look at all these applications that I see because I have to fill out applications for my clients. And some of them ask, is your client a trans? Is your client a cisgender? Is your client a male, female? What is this? What the heck is a cisgender? Is your client non-binary? Is your client binary? It's crazy. Why is that even on an application? My girlfriends told me when they were applying for makeup jobs, they asked them, are you a trans? Are you a non-binary? Are you a binary? Are you a cisgender? Do you identify as a cat? I'm like, what the hell is this? Now, there are people out there that are trying to get health insurance. I want to know if the health insurance companies cover their surgeries, if they want to go from being a man to a woman and so forth. That's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different application. But we have two sexes, guys, male and female. There's no such thing as cisgender, binary, non-binary, a cat, a dog. It's insane to me. It's very insane to me. And I'm not going to put that on an Opera application either. I'm going to say I'm a woman, and that's it. I don't put my ethnicity on there. I don't put that I don't put my race. I'm an American and I'm a woman. That's all it should be. Actually, under law, they're not even supposed to ask you your ethnicity, your race, and all this stuff. If you go to any government job, it's always optional. Some people say, oh, depending on what job you want, you should put you're a woman, you should put you're a man, blah, blah, blah. But it's really optional. Because again, that's DEI hiring. I had friends, if they put they were white, they didn't get a job. But when they put they were black, gay, they just did that for the fun of it. Then they get an interview. Or if they put they were an Arab, or a Muslim, they get an interview. Or if they say they practice Islam, they get an interview. If they said they were Jewish, decline. And that actually was a real topic that happened. When people put that they were Jewish, their applications went out the window. Because again, the anti-Semitism, we don't want a Jew running our office. We don't want a Jew as a manager, as an account executive, as a CEO. Because all the stereotypes of Jews come out. You're Christian? We don't want that. You have religion in your life? We don't want that. You're married with kids? We don't want to marry, or not marry. We don't want to hire somebody like that. We want somebody who's like us, unmarried or divorced, or has a baby mama somewhere, a baby daddy, illegitimate children all over the place, someone who's of color. I mean, you look at Maryland, I always bring it up because I do a lot of Maryland politics here, but Governor Wes Moore, he made it known that he was not going to hire a lot of white people. He hired people based on their race, religion, and creed, and not merit. Remember what President Trump said? We're going to hire people based on merit. And the people in his administration that he hired are based on merits. I can tell you that. And nothing to do with the fact that Pam Bondi is a woman. And nothing to do with the fact that she's a Christian. And had nothing to do with the fact that Howard Lutnick is Jewish or that Steve Wilcox is Jewish. And nothing to do with the fact that Marco Rubio is Hispanic. And nothing to do with the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is of Native American descent. It had nothing to do with the fact that J.D. Vance is a white Christian and that his wife is family is from India and she's Indian background. It had nothing to do with the fact that Stephen Miller is Jewish. I mean, he didn't pick people based on their race, their religion, the color of their skin. He accepts everybody. He didn't pick Scott Turner because he's black as the HUD secretary. He didn't pick Dr. Ben Carson because he was black. He picked them because they were smart men and they could get the job done. He didn't pick former Congressman Sean Duffy as the Secretary of Transportation because he's a white Christian man and he's got 9 kids. No, that's not why. And that's just not who President Trump is. But they called him a racist and they called him a white supremacist and they called him Islamophobic and xenophobic and all this crap and anti-Semitic. Nothing that these morons have said about President Trump is proven true, by the way. It's really the Democrats, the socialists, the Marxists, the communist elitists. They're the ones that are the racists. They're the ones that are the anti-Semites. We're finding that out. We're finding that out. Again, I'm dealing with, and we'll talk about this later in the segment, Jewish Voices for Peace. They're anti-Jew Jews. They do not support Jewish people. But yet they go up and say, I'm Jewish and I support Hamas. Totally against the religion. Totally against what Judaism stands for. When you stand by terrorists, you go against your own. You go against Hashem. It is so against the Torah. If you believe in the 5 books of Moses, which is considered the Old Testament, you are not supposed to go against your own. Not at all. And you're definitely not supposed to stand with terrorists. That's why people like Zelensky irk me, Chuck Schumer irks me, Adam Schiff, Bernie Sanders, the same cowards that are bought and paid for by terrorist organizations, that get money from terrorist organizations. They don't care. That's why President Trump is so adamant about these tariffs, because he knows that these congressmen are getting bought and paid for by these terrorist organizations. And who would know better than Congressman Devin Nunes and Kash Patel? And I've said, and I will continue to say, that the lobbyists and special interests of this country are detriments to our nation. I have called for the removal of them out of DC because they lobby Democrat ideals and Democrat things. It is not the political consultants that are the problem, even though there are some that are money hungry and just take your money and run and they don't care if you lose. But it's the lobbyists that are saying we need this and we need that, that say we need, gun control, make this state a 51st state. Those are liberal ideals and liberal tactics. The special interest groups, the same thing. And these lobbyists make a heck of a lot of money. They make $400,000 a year plus. And the more they're on Capitol Hill, the more they're a detriment to our nation. But that's why we, the people, have to remember where we come from. We have to remember who we are. We have to be true to ourselves and do not bend and take a knee to woke and socialist ideals. This fencer took a knee because she knew what they were doing to her wasn't fair and wasn't right. She was not a coward. She actually did stand her ground by saying, I'm not going to fight against a guy. This is a male. The person has an Adam's apple and a male genitalia. You could tell through the outfit. And just like Riley Gaines stood her ground and said, this is not fair. This is not right. I'm not going to allow Leah Thompson to continue coming into the girls' locker room where I'm seeing her male genitalia because they all shower together. It's disgusting. She said, it's not fair. Just like I will not allow men dressed up as women to pretend that they're women, to pretend that they're female opera singers, and to say, I'm a dramatic soprano, I'm a mezzo soprano, and to take good roles away from people that really deserve it. As I've said earlier, in months and in years, I was professionally trained by the best, by the people at Juilliard, Manhattan College of Music, Manhattan School of Music, Manus College of Music. These are like the top music conservatories in the nation. Curtis Institute of Music, the top music conservatory in the nation. Laundry School of Music in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the top music conservatory in the nation. I worked with maestros that conducted Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, Maria Callas, Joan Sutherland, the greats. I studied my butt off. I had a hell of a career. My career is not over. I'm way too young to retire from this. But my career was put on hold because of socialism and wokeness. And I will not allow it to continue. And neither should anyone else. If you're one of those people that are dealing with men playing in women's sports, call it out. If you have a governor, I almost lost my voice there. If you have a governor who is combating President Trump's executive orders, call them out, report them. And President Trump sees it. He sees what's going on across the country. He's not stupid. He sees, he knows. He knows who's for him and who's against him. He knows. That's why if the governor of Maine wants to take him to court, he says, bring it on. Bring it on, biatch. You're really going to take me down, the President of the United States? Bring it on. They've been trying to take me down for how many years? And he's still standing. Baruch Hashem. Praise be to God. So you stand your ground and you fight like hell. And I hope that there's more Riley Gaines and Stephanie's out there that will fight for what's right and fight for justice. But don't allow your governors to continue allowing men and women's sports. It's not fair and it's not right. Don't allow opera companies to continue having woke people and trans people take your job away from you. And we'll be back right after the break. Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did. And hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. Segment 3, everyone. This is a very powerful segment to me. Unfortunately, over the weekend, we had 2 massive protests. One was a hands-off protest. The other one was a pro-Hamas protest. And we're going to pull up the first slide. White House says pro-Hamas propaganda was handed out at rallies organized by detained Palestinian activists. That was a huge rally that was put on this past weekend, and we will play the video clip now of that rally.
Gaza is the battle between good and evil. Netanyahu was right when he said this is a war between light and darkness. He only got the sides mixed up. It is a war between light and dark because if human beings are deprived of their human dignity, they will be massacred like we are seeing in Gaza, and nobody will do anything about it.
So for those of you who didn't hear that, they were screaming out, death to America, death to Israel, death to Jews. They say Allahu Akbar all day and all night. I can tell you as a White House reporter, I have been in the White House when these pro-Hamas protesters have been outside of the White House proclaiming Allahu Akbar, and they started 20 to 30 to 40 to thousands of people. I can tell you that this rally, they had thousands of people bust in from all over the country. These people didn't live in DC. These people came from all over the country, and they also came from all over the world. You have a lot of illegals that fly into our country to do these protests. And it's disgusting because they continuously do this, and they think that we don't know. Just like there was buses of people during January 6th, BLM buses were pulled up as President Trump was still speaking. He was still speaking right before he said, we'll peacefully protest at the Capitol. Everybody saw it. Everybody knew that BLM was paid to come to the Capitol and raise havoc and dress up as Trump supporters. That was actually proven evidence later on. But why is this happening? Why are these terrorist organizations allowed to come in the thousands? I hope that the Trump administration took names of these morons that came. I know there was a lot of people that were in DC as spies, taking pictures of people, asking them what their names were. And they gave them lists to the Trump administration, to Marco Rubio, to Pam Bondi, to Thomas Homan, to Kristi Noem. It's very, very important that we identify these people and get them the hell out of our country. In the state of Maryland, Governor Larry Hogan, he had a lot of illegal Syrian, illegal Lebanese refugees into the state of Maryland, particularly in Montgomery County, where I have a residency. There's a lot of illegal terrorists that live in Montgomery County, and there's a huge Hoco-free Palestine in Columbia, Maryland. And Columbia, Maryland, which is Howard County, is supposed to be the richest and wealthiest county in Maryland. So why do we have all these illegal terrorists that live in one of the richest counties in Maryland? It's craziness. It's craziness. I have friends that work for Fort Meade. that live in Howard County. And I said to them, you're leaving, right? You're going to transfer, right? You're not going to stay at your job forever. You're going to live with these illegal terrorists? I mean, they have a horrible county executive, Calvin Ball, who doesn't care. But if nothing gets done, these illegals stay. I can tell you that Thomas Homan, the border czar, and Kristi Noem are doing everything they can to remove these illegals out of the state of Maryland. I've seen them removed in Silver Spring, which is Montgomery County. I've seen them removed in Anne Arundel County, and some places that have a big threshold of them. But we want to reduce the MS-13 gang members in Baltimore County and Baltimore City. They're on the rise. You have Baltimore City Council presidents and the Baltimore City mayor saying that Baltimore City is so safe, that the crime is low, and that more people are moving to the city. It's a lie. We all know it's a lie. People are leaving the state of Maryland. Maryland has become broke because of DEI leaders. But this Baltimore City Council president is hurting his Jewish constituents every day by lying to them and saying that the area is safe. There's rise of anti-Semitism in Baltimore City. He knows it. He sees it. He's just a follower, not a leader. He doesn't want to take initiative and say, you know what? It is dangerous here. He wants to lie to you and say that everything is safe and that more people are moving. It's a lie. I talk to people in Maryland all the time. I know every single one of Baltimore City's, the mayor's constituents and the Baltimore City president's constituents. I talk to them all the time. All races, religions, and creeds that live in Baltimore City. And it's heavily, heavily Black. And the Black community there is very scared. They don't like it. A lot of people from the Black community have changed parties from Democrat to Republican because they've #had enough, or Democrat to Independent because they've #had enough. Tim and I worked heavily in the Black community there to build a base. We helped the homeless there. We fed the homeless there. We removed a lot of the drugs. We did the Baltimore City cleanup with many prominent people, such as Scott Pressler, excuse me. And then we brought Brandon Strzok, who's the head of the Walkaway Foundation and the Walkaway campaign to Baltimore City. He saw it. He was like, oh my God. You know, Tim talked about how he went to an event where the Freddie Gray riots were. I was there at that event with him. It was very scary. He called me. He said, Alexandra, can somebody come and escort me? I don't feel comfortable here because it's very unsafe. And when Tim and I were feeding the homeless, we were in a very bad area, and there was a lot of crack whores, prostitution, drug dealings happening right in front of us. And there's police driving by, and they're not doing anything because the DEI leader, Mayor Brandon Scott, allows these people to commit crimes, and he doesn't allow the police to do their jobs. I had to hire private security for Tim and I because we didn't feel safe. My father didn't want me there without security. That's how bad Baltimore City is getting. And they want to make Baltimore City, they want to make Baltimore County, Baltimore City. That's why it's so important who our leadership is and who's in power. Because you have a bunch of followers and not leaders, and a bunch of DEI leaders that are controlling Maryland. And again, I heavily call for the suing of the state of Maryland. I call for the charge of Governor Westmore, the charge of Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott, and the charge of Anthony Brown, the Attorney General. I've asked Pam Bondi to look into this and do this, as well as Kash Patel. Because if not, Maryland in general, is just going to continue to go down the tubes. How bad does it have to be for there to be justice for we the people? Again, they continuously break the law on a daily basis. But I don't like seeing hundreds of thousands of people at a pro-Hamas protest supporting these terrorists. And it's the same groups: Jewish Voices for Peace, SJP, CARE, the Muslim Brotherhood. It's the same groups. I've asked for Jewish groups to come together and combat this. We can do it. We are more than numbers than them. And I've asked Christian groups to work with the Jewish groups and do a big event together. I had a very successful event at Bender JCC in Rockville, Maryland, almost 2 years ago. And I had Christians and Jews there. It was a sold out full house. And we made a difference. We talked about the anti-Semitism on college campuses. I talked about how I want to fully mandate Holocaust and Israel education in K through 12 schools all over the state of Maryland and nationwide. I did it in Pennsylvania. I did it in Arizona and Arkansas and Missouri. Florida already implements it. Texas already implements it. California needs to get better. Oregon needs to get better because they teach snippets of it. They teach genocide, but they don't teach the Holocaust. And I know Holocaust survivors that'd be more than welcome to come and teach a class. And they would come for a week, not just a day, a week. And they would go from school to school to school. I've implemented governors and school boards to take kids to Holocaust museums near them. The one here in DC is extremely powerful. It is riveting. It is a day, it's an experience. And there's some graphic areas in that museum. There's actual real footage of the Holocaust in that museum. If you're in Israel, I encourage people to go to Yad Vashem. It's a Holocaust memorial. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal setup. But people need to know. People need to know history. I know in Virginia, the University of Virginia, they had a Palestinian walkout to rah-rah that guy, Mohammed or Michal, who started the pro-Hamas protests at Columbia University. And that's what this big pro-Hamas rally was about, supporting him. That it's so bad that his visa was revoked by Marco Rubio, but more will be to follow. That's why it was very important that people took pictures of the illegals that were at that rally, got their names, did everything they could to collect information so that Marco Rubio knows, and Pam Bondi knows, and Kash Patel knows, and Tulsi Gabbard knows, and Kristi Noem and Thomas Homan know to remove these morons, to get rid of them. Because it's very important. It's very, very important that we remove these illegals from our presence. If we don't do it, it's very bad. And then the other rally that they had, we'll show the next slide. Hands off protesters. Let's show that slide. Hands off protesters across U.S. rally against President Trump and Elon Musk. Do we have that slide, Damon? Well, we did have the slide. I guess we don't have the slide anymore. But it was a huge hands-off protest across the U.S. that was a rally against President Trump and Elon Musk. It was against Doge. You know, people are saying that Elon Musk is just coming in and he's just eliminating people's jobs left and right. Again, education for the people that are scared to lose their jobs, or they think they're going to lose their jobs. There it is. Hands off. Protesters across U.S. rally against President Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And it was a huge rally where they bussed again thousands of people. People were saying, where did these people come from? They came from all over the country. And they were formed and funded by a man named George Soros, just like BLM was formed and funded by George Soros. Did it make a noise? Were people scared after this? Did it really affect and change much? No. It was just a bunch of people bussed in. And these people were paid to come. See, that's sad. When you have to pay someone to come to a protest, that means that everybody knows that this message is crazy. But if I'm getting paid for it, why not? I'll spew out hate against another person or another religion. Why not? And a lot of the times these people don't even know what they're protesting against. But hey, it's money. I know when I was in the White House, when I was at the White House lawn, and I heard these pro-Hamas people, they were just there for the money. They probably knew half the stuff they were saying. But this one woman came up with a jingle and she talked so much that she lost her voice. They had to get another guy in there who they probably pay $60 an hour. And they did this from noon until the evening. Laura Loomer actually filmed up until I think 10, 11 o'clock at night, the hordes of people that were in front of the White House. They were praying in front of the White House, saying Allahu Akbar. It's crazy. They didn't have our best interest at heart. They're not peaceful protesters. The hands-off people are not peaceful protesters either. There were some videos where people were whacked out to heck, just completely whacked out, brainwashed. Craziness. Craziness. Stupid and crazy. Terrible. Terrible. But my question is, hands off of what? I would say hands off of me. Hands off my gun. Hands off my freedom and hands off my independence. That's how I frame it. They basically don't want you to be free. They want the government to control you. They want the government to take your guns away from you. They want you to have late-term abortions. They want the government to come in and say, yeah, you can kill your baby after it's born. Why not? No problem. That's their message. But I would twist the message and say, do you even know what you guys are talking about? And these are the same morons that think it's okay to desecrate someone who owns a Tesla, or excuse me, to desecrate someone's car, someone who owns a Tesla, to desecrate their car, and to desecrate Tesla dealerships. It's funny, I was out to dinner last night with my uncle, because it's his birthday, and we were walking, and there was a couple people that came up. I think it was like a Chevrolet dealership. And they have sensors, and they say, please get out of this dealership, step away from the car, step away from the premise. If not, the police are coming after you. It's an automated thing. But I know why they do it, and I think it's great. And they have a video camera, so they know who these people are that are up on their dealership driveway or their dealership garage. Why are people at 10, 11 o'clock at night walking up to a dealership? It's not like they were taking a shortcut to their home. But if these morons can do it to a Tesla car, they can do it to any type of car. But again, people need to understand that Donald Trump is not messing around, and President Trump Elon Musk isn't messing around. And it's funny, they scream out hands off, even though Elon Musk is exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse. But no one's ever questioned him. No one's ever called Elon Musk a liar. They just don't like what he's doing. And again, the people that are losing their jobs are people that have been lazy for years, that do not want to come back into the office, that don't have the best portfolios, that are DEI hires. I know, because I talk to people. Or if it's a certain division where people haven't really done the work, it's everyone's fault in that division. There's no more slackers. President Trump wants people to come in and do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're out of here. You're fired. President Trump has no problem firing people. Remember, he hires people based on merit. That's what's important. That is what's important. And we have to understand. We have to understand that Elon Musk is cutting away the waste, fraud, and abuse. We shouldn't be protesting against that. We should be for it. These oligarchy rallies that AOC and Bernie Sanders are creating across the country, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. They don't even know what an oligarchy is. And they confuse the voters by thinking what Elon Musk is doing is an oligarchy. They don't know. They don't know what they're saying. Not at all. Again, you have to ask yourselves, what are these people protesting for? What are they protesting against? Do they even know what they're protesting against? Remember, you must fight for something, not fight against it. And coming back after the break, we have a repeated guest who's got some breaking news. We're doing breaking news on our show tonight. John Curren, he was the candidate for the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. He will be with us right after the break.
This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
And hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine Live with the America's Pulse Network. Yes, just to reiterate, I am the White House correspondent for this network. It is an honor and a privilege to be in the White House briefing room with Caroline Leavitt and on the White House lawn with President Trump and many others. And I'm so excited every time that I go to the White House. It is a blessing. We are considered the new conservative media. Caroline Leavitt loves us because we report fairly and we ask the right questions. And I personally, as I've stated, I love President Trump and his policies. And when I go there, I specifically ask about his policies. I ask about what he's going to do for this country and ask how he is going to, again, make America great again. So we have a breaking story tonight. And this has been an ongoing story in the Virginia news. Again, we have a repeated guest, Mr. John Curren, who was a candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, a total issue with signatures. We're going to pull up his picture right now so you guys see him. There he is, John Curren. This is his Facebook for Virginia Lieutenant Governor. And I've gotten to know him well. And, he's a very nice man. And he's going to tell you his story about what happened to him and what he's currently doing. So please, Damon, let's pull Mr. Curren up if he's ready to go. Oh, there he is.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good. Thank you so much for coming back on to tell your story. So just before you tell your story, Damon, we're going to pull up the letter that Mr. Curren wrote. There it is. We can't, some people can read, some people can't. But Mr. Curren, my first question to you is talk about that letter. Talk about what's going on since you were last on the show.
All right. Well, Virginia has a unique way of getting on a ballot for a statewide race. You have to collect a minimum of 10,000 signatures throughout the state, which also have to be broken up to 400 minimal from each congressional district. So clearly collecting 10,000, you have to make sure they're valid. So you usually go for about 12,000 minimal plus. We're probably one of the most aggressively collecting campaigns out compared to any of the candidates. We were at multiple events. We had volunteers throughout the state. And we were really hitting the numbers. We had a dispute with one of our team members. And it was timed about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before signatures were due. Well, actually, I'd have to take it back. It went back even into February. They basically disappeared, started ghosting the committee. Well, they had the majority of our signatures. Not only that, they were the contact that committees around the state, organizations, ladies groups, men's groups, different political groups were mailing in the petitions that they were collecting. We shortly basically got a demand letter to pay X amount of money they felt they were owed for those signatures. We disagreed with it. But obviously without those signatures, that was the majority of our signatures at the time. We couldn't get on the ballot. We reached out to some legal help, some attorneys to consult to, and they basically said this was election interference, not only extortion, but election interference, and said we needed to contact the Commonwealth attorney, which we did. They agreed with it. They turned it over to local law enforcement. They investigated, put hours into it, and it actually accelerated to what they called, high-profile crimes. They actually put it into. They backed up. They confirmed that we had the signatures. We had emails between people with, oh, I just sent this package in with these number of signatures, and we sent this, and confirmations between each other. So they confirmed that there was thousands and thousands of signatures missing that we took. We went out, continued to collect. We ended up by election day not getting the majority of those signatures back. And we submitted we were short, but we submitted that letter basically either asking for more time or actually being put on the ballot, because allowing somebody to steal those signatures basically is silencing every single voter who signed that petition. You know, it is clear-cut election interference. And at first I thought I was the victim, but I'm not as much as the voter. You know, you're talking 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 different voters whose signatures are on those documents wanting somebody on the ballot that was denied. I submitted them, submitted the letter, submitted all the other documentation, paid the fees, and they already cashed the check for the fees, so they collected it, but have heard nothing back from either the party or the Department of Elections. We don't know where we stand here on where they're going to do. I know our attorneys are getting ready to file a suit demanding a judge to get involved. I had some meetings up in DC area today. There's some groups that say I should walk away and actually concentrate on maybe running for Mark Warner's Senate seat instead. I don't know if I'm ready to go off to that level yet. But my concern is, as the detectives looked at this, they started saying it was bigger than one person. They started feeling it didn't happen with one single person. And they started looking at past campaigns. They found the same group of people seem to be dealing with each other. Same group of people always go for the grassroots type candidate. And we've even had other candidates come out and say they believe the same people were involved with sabotaging their campaigns as well. Now, some of that could be, you know, I'm mad I didn't get on or I didn't win the campaign. But when you have enough documentation to prove law enforcement that you had those signatures, they were stolen. To me, what it shows is somebody might take the hit for the theft, but if you want to interrupt the election process, there's ways to do it. And the candidate you want, we're going to interfere and stop it. We saw how they tried to go after Donald Trump, the extremes they went. This wasn't as extreme. But it was also when you started looking at a lot of controversial stories that are being popped up around media and stuff, it was all timed almost the same time as this did. So we're hoping that we work something out with Department of Elections and the party to get on the ballot. We feel we have the same amount as any other candidate did to get on there to begin with. And that, like I said, the bad person shouldn't win out in this, that the Virginia voters should be represented. And if they don't, I'm going to shift my efforts now to exposing these kind of things, because you can't silence that many Virginia voters. And I understand some of the voters who signed my petitions also signed for the other two candidates. That's the way it works in Virginia. You can sign for everybody. But again, that person expressed, I wanted to see that race, and that desire is now being stripped from the Virginia voter. And that needs to be dealt with in Virginia.
Let me ask you, can you say for the record the group that you know stole signatures from you? Can you state that for the record?
I'm not supposed to, because they're, I guess, law enforcement stealing. I know it went from local law enforcement here where I am to the state police of Virginia. And I think the Commonwealth attorney locally has moved that up to the attorney general's office to that level. Somebody asked me the other day, why isn't the FBI? Because we know these petitions were taken out of state as well. Now it is a Virginia election. States have their rights for election, even though election interference is a federal crime. Again, I don't know where that is. I did reach out to the detective and asked, where is the limit I can say? And he honestly said, I don't know where that limit is. So it's kind of a line. But I think based on the last I heard, that will probably all come out probably by the end of this week on who this group is. So it's going to be a continuing saga on what goes on. I just want
to ask is because I don't want that happening to anybody else, because there are a lot of like this, a lot of political consultants as well that really, screw the candidates. And I see it, I hear it, it's horrible. Let me ask you another question. Has the RNC gotten involved in this? Has the RNC reached out to you? Did you reach out to the RNC in this?
I have not heard from the RPV, the Virginia, the Republican Party of Virginia, or the RNC itself. We have not heard of. Again, I think this has been kept kind of low level to try to get it resolved. I think they're trying to get those petitions back. Some of the questions are, what happened to them? Were they modified and changed for another candidate, another office? Nobody knows, and I can't even comment. I mean, you start creating conspiracy theories, and that kind of makes you look crazy sometimes. But somebody did it for a purpose. That they did it to undermine a campaign. Maybe that was all it was. That they did to help out another candidate. We don't know. The strange part is the group of people themselves. I guess they've been operating or consulting in Virginia for, I think, almost 15 years. They go back, and they are not tied to a single winning candidate over those 15 years,
Lovely.
Which should kind of start questioning what's going on here. So, but
another,
we'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in regards to the lieutenant governor race, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there a primary for that race?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we had 3 people running, myself, Pat Harity, and John Reed. Both of their signatures were submitted, from what I understand, because in Virginia, the party certifies them to them. They've been certified. Now, you read all over the newspaper, whatever news release, you got some that says it's a 3-way race. You have some that says I failed to make it. You don't know who or where the rumor is or what they are, or if they're willing to. I had one attorney come out to me and said, well, the party can always still nominate you. But that becomes an issue, because then if a party nominates, they're endorsing basically. And I don't think the RPV is going to try to endorse a candidate,
Yeah, what's it about?
Yeah, so I don't know where it goes. They did. One of the attorneys did bring up that back during COVID, judges actually reduced the numbers for certain candidates because people are having a hard time collecting, because there wasn't public events that people could go to collect signatures, gun shows, those kind of things that are normally used. NASCAR races where people usually went to the parking lots beforehand and collect them. Those were shut down. So they said it was, and the judges approved them. And I know one candidate, he kind of messed up himself. The judge asked him how many signatures should be allowed. And I think he said 3,500, but we only turned in 2,800. So he got what he wanted, a reduced amount, but still didn't make it. But there has been a precedent of showing. On this case, it was a crime, though. Basically a crime was committed, and a premeditated crime. We actually have between one of my other staffers and the person who took it, a message that says, you guys are going to look like fools trying to get on the ballot when I have all the signatures in hand. So it was a clear premeditated attempt to stop getting on the ballot. So
let me ask you, out of the 2 that are in the primary, are you working with either one of them? Are you endorsing them? Are you waiting till after the primary to endorse for the general?
I have, to me, I want to see a Republican win. Personally, I think I'm the best candidate. I think I had the strength to pull them in between the other 2. I'd like to see, I look at the other side, what they're offering up, and that just needs to be stopped. So obviously, and I said it all along, even if I was on the ballot and lost in the primary, that I was going to back whoever the candidate was to get to win that office, as well as all the other Republican candidates throughout the state. So, we have also 100 state delegates up for election this year. And I don't know how many board of supervisors and school board members and all that going down the list of local. So it's going to be a fight either way to get out there. I'm going to stay in it no matter what happens. And again, I was kind of taken off guard today when somebody says, give it up and let's go after your start going after Mark Warner. I didn't think about that.
Hey, for now.
But I'd like
start campaigning now. Start raising money now.
Well, that's what they say. It's the money game. Start raising.
True.
So,
Long time.
Yeah, and a lot of people say it's time for a change. I don't know. I know the last way when Kane was up, we ended up 8 candidates in there to try to take the last Senate race, and it stepped all over it. But we need to change some stuff. I'm hoping this gets straight, because I think it's setting a precedent that how does the victims, which are the voters, how are they compensated for something like this? And are we
Sorry, I
setting?
didn't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask you: have you
No, go ahead.
spoken to any of your voters? How do they feel about what?
Oh, I have. Oh, I've had a lot of people come. They're furious about it, and the strange part is when we got certain signatures back, the ones that are missing are my own. I had actually signed the night before it was
Wow.
delivered. We submitted it. My wife's signature is gone. My daughter's signatures, members of our staff, close friends of mine who are out collecting, volunteering, collecting, all of their signatures were gone. We had a complete district that was missing that we had records of those signatures being submitted. So it's kind of weird when you look at all the signatures and you say, wait, I can't even find my own signature in here as the candidate. Something went wrong where it was. And people are upset about it. I tell you who really turned out for us at the end, I got to say, is Southwest Virginia. A lot of their voters came out, really got a lot of support even to today. I got a donor report that was showing our high donors, and I couldn't believe how many were actually from Southwest Virginia, where you didn't expect that money to come in from. And those are the people talking to the people that were collecting for us. They're upset about it. They're like, look, this is the guy we wanted, because they wanted, I think what I talked about, a lot more economic development out there, bringing businesses and careers out to that area. And they're upset. Now, what can they do about it? Some people, which I tell them not to because it doesn't solve anything, they don't want to vote at all now. And I'm like, if you don't vote at all you're doing is turning it over to the other side. Yeah. So I said, we need a vote. We need to vote heavy about it.
Well,
somebody said about a write-in.
You and I talked about, getting rid of the massive days of early voting and getting rid of the open primary, making it a closed primary. It makes a big difference. I think a lot of people are so concerned that the election laws in Virginia have not been, 100% changed. And now that President Trump has put into executive order to get rid of the mail-in ballots, election on the day, get rid of all this early voting, I really hope that the state of Virginia implements that. And if Winsome Sears does become the governor, I hope that that is a big priority that she will do, that she will listen to President Trump and listen to his executive orders. And I'm going to switch to that. I know you said you support all the Republicans. I assume that you support Winsome Sears as your Republican nominee for governor. And I'm sure you'll work very hard to try to get her in that governorship. A lot of people are concerned that she's not as strong as she could be because she kind of alienated the MAGA movement, the MAGA support that President Trump has. A lot of people are upset that Virginia didn't win for President Trump. And again, a lot of people are upset that they didn't flip the Senate seat. What say you about those voters that Winsome Sears needs, the MAGA voters that she needs to get that threshold, to get her over the hump, to beat this liberal Democrat?
Well, I don't think we can't play the game of I'm taking my ball because you didn't pick me. I'm going to take my ball and not play. I heard that same statement while I was out campaigning. I actually had some people ask me to run for governor versus lieutenant governor and challenger, which I was not in a position to do and wasn't expected. I still say at the end of the day, if you look at the extreme things that Angela Spanberger stands for and what she said, even today, she said she'll come out and sign the increase in minimum wage bill that we had, which California did. And we saw what happened. It didn't get people paid more money. People left the state and the jobs left the state. The businesses closed down. People need to keep in mind, if we want to maintain a free state, basically, we still need to vote. I still have 100% confidence in Winsome Sears. I've spoken to her before, and I'm a big fan, believing she can. She might not be everybody's cup of tea, and some might think she's not the ultimate MAGA candidate. I think, though, she is still going to fight for the rights and the liberties and the smart stuff. We need her more than we need Angela Spanberger. And to not vote, to not support her is just, it's kind of like what people were doing with Trump before, mocking him. It's kind of like trying to get rid of your pilot in midair of the plane. No, you got to have the pilot. And I think Winsome Sears can do what she needs to do with the state of Virginia. I think Jason Miyares, as the Attorney General, he's done a great job. I think he's going to keep that going. What we really need to do is flip the state house. We need to change over some of those legislative seats and keep the ones that are in play and try to turn those. But the the alternative just doesn't work. You know, they're taking things too far. You're going to have DEI back into schools. They'll challenge that. You'll have, you'll have, just like you see in a lot of the liberal states, the universities bringing out the anti-Semite stuff that they weren't allowing to do. They were allowing in some states.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Winston Sears is going to stand for any of that, and she's shown herself to be true on those issues. I'd support her. Anything she wanted me to do. When I first entered the race, I spent some time on the phone, talked to her, said I was here, whatever she needed to do to get in there, I'd back her. We had other opponents come in. I told them too, if they won, I'd be there for them. They didn't get on the ballot. Got to meet a couple of Dave LaRock and Amanda Chase. After dealing with them and talking to them, found them to be great people. Any of them we would have probably been lucky with. But I still think Winston Sears has the ability to take the state where it needs to go. And I don't think we're in danger of anything. But if we don't vote, we're going to be in that same place. I heard somebody say the problem that Republicans have now is we're happy with Donald Trump, and angry people vote. So I think we made the joke, be happy, but get angry and get out there and vote, because we have a real quick chance of losing everything that we've moved up over the last 4 years in Virginia and keeping it going. So anybody's listening, I'll tell them, put everything aside and you got to support the party at this point. So.
Well, what I can add to that is I know for a fact that Winston Sears is now trying to kind of cater to the MAGA Republicans, the Trump Republicans. She's been coming out and speaking at more conservative venues, getting more involved with conservative values, as opposed to former Governor Larry Hogan in Maryland, who alienated the entire Republican Party and was actually moving towards a more Democrat socialist agenda. Now he wants to run for governor of Maryland again, but as an independent, because he alienated the Republican base so much. That's why they have a Democrat senator in Maryland now. And the Republicans in Maryland, they will never vote for Larry Hogan. The independents will never vote for Larry Hogan because he's alienated the base so much. I think Winston Sears is doing what, in my opinion, Larry Hogan should have done. And instead of continuously alienating the Republican base and not voting for Trump and just kind of like writing him off, she is kind of starting to understand that President Trump is the head of the Republican Party. He is the president of the United States. We need to get on board with him. And I think, in my opinion, that Winston Sears will start to get on board with him as she's going through her campaign. And if she does become governor, which we all hope she does, because we definitely don't want that Democrat in there, is that she will follow and implement President Trump's executive orders, because if not, she'll be out of there. I mean, President Trump will make her life a living hell, just like the governor of Maine is trying to make President Trump's life a living hell. I do want to make the point about Spamberger, the congresswoman. She cheated. Her whole campaign cheated. They found 1,500 ballots on a hard drive at the last second, at the last moment, when it was an open seat. I know for a fact that Nick Freitas did win that seat. Everybody knows that Nick Freitas won that seat. This was in 2020, of course. Right. And she continues to, she and her team continue to cheat to continuously have her as the congresswoman. We all know that Nick Freitas won not once but twice, and it's disgusting that the people of Virginia would even think to even have her as the nominee, but also to even have her compete for the governorship. What say you about that?
I think you're right. I actually, like I said, I believe Winston Sears backs the president, Donald Trump, with what he's doing right now. He wants to bring back manufacturing. Southwest Virginia, the Valley area is perfect. Those are pad-ready towns begging for these businesses and manufacturing. Everything from pharmaceuticals to medical equipment would be perfect there in the distribution of Virginia. And I think Winston Sears also brings a unique thing. She's also very in touch with the minorities groups throughout Virginia who are tired of being just thrown jobs, not hardcore careers to lay down and build communities and make a better community. I posted out on Facebook over the weekend. I believe we're at the beginning of our second industrial revolution in this country. Mm-hmm. And I think Virginia, being where we are too, right next to DC, working with Donald Trump, the plans he has for the nation and what we need for our own state would make a great combination, and we could boom. The state can really, really boom. I think she embraces those things. Obviously, people said things bad, but J.D. Vance attacked Trump at one point too, and they made up. So I got a feeling, the country and the state's more important than some feelings, and I think they're both big enough people that they're going to move on from it. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Trump endorsement for Winston Sears at some point. I hope so.
From your mouth to God's ears. Well, like President Trump said, don't be a panican. Do not
Yeah,
be a panican.
exactly. Exactly.
Like I said, I really hope that Winsome Sears doesn't turn into a Larry Hogan, because, as I said, the people of Maryland, the Republicans, they voted against that because Larry Hogan did not embrace President Trump, did not embrace his policies. The people, the Trump Republicans, they want a governor that will embrace President Trump and embrace his policies. So that's what the MAGA Republicans in Virginia are really going to look at: is Winsome Sears going to implement Trump's policies? Is she going to stand by his side at the end of the day? Or is she just going to use him for an endorsement like many others have in the past? Is she going to be a Mike DeWine, who's been a big disappointment in Ohio? Or is she going to actually come out and be that conservative that people really thought she was when they all voted for her as lieutenant governor? And that's going to be the challenge. Final word for you. How can my viewers find you? How can they contact you?
The best way is through the website, which is Curren for Virginia, spelled out, and it's Curran is Curren. That's the best way. And there's Facebook. Also, you have the Facebook page up. You do John Curren, Lieutenant Governor. If you just Google John Curren, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, it pops up. You have 50 different things that go. I can use their support still. Like I said, we have a fight. We're probably going to have a court battle here, which once you get lawyers involved, that gets costly too. So anything you can do. And I appreciate you having me back on today. Always great to talk with you. So.
No, it was great. And like I said, this was a breaking story, breaking news. I'm glad that Alexandra Levine Live and the America's Pulse Network could break this story, because, when this story came out, I personally felt very bad for you, but also people need to hear these stories because, like you said, there's other campaigns, other candidates that do get screwed by people that say they are one person and not. And that's why I'm always about extreme vetting. Please extremely vet. I tell people, because I'm a political consultant, if you want to look me up, if you want to do a complete background check on me, I'm all for it. And if the people that you're working with are against a full background check, then that's suspicious as well. But I always tell people, look, I have nothing to hide. If you feel more comfortable doing a complete background check on me, by all means do it. I totally understand. And I do background checks on people that I work with too, because at the end of the day, it's your reputation on the line. And we want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, because politics, and this, John, has become a very dirty business.
Oh, it is.
Make or break your marriage.
Yep.
And it's tough because your wife and your children are going through this with you. And they say, like, John, why are you going through this? Like, why did you decide to run in the first place? You knew something. Maybe there's always a chance some crap would happen. But it's great that you have a great support system and a great family that supports you. But it's very tough. It's very tough out there. And I give you a lot of credit for going out and running. And I, to be honest with you, I don't want you to stop. I want you to continue. I want you to continue the fight. If people want you to run for U.S. Senate and they're going to back you with money, do it. If you want to run for something else, do it. Do it. You have my, my thumbs up. I really want you to continue running and continue the fight.
Well, I know personally, you try to knock me down, it just gets me fired up. So we'll keep going. My wife may not be as happy with that, but I'm not giving up that easy. So you'll still see me around.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a little short break. Coming up after the break, we're going to do some final thoughts. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
Mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Hey guys, that was John Curren. He was running for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. If you want to get involved with what's going on with him, you can go to currenforva.com. That's Lieutenant Governor, currenforva.com. But you can also look him up, John Curren, Curran, for Lieutenant Governor. You can Google him. He's all over Facebook, John Curren for Lieutenant Governor, and get involved with what he's doing. He's still fighting the fight. As he said on air, breaking news, there was thousands of signatures that were stolen from him, so he wasn't allowed to be on the ballot to run the primary, which hurt him. And people in D.C., they said to him, you should give up on this and maybe run for the United States Senate, maybe run against Mark Warner. So I do think that there's big things for Mr. Curren in the future. And as I told him, please continue the fight, because we need fighters in Washington and even fighters on the state and local level. So just some final thoughts of tonight. We are still helping our really good friend, and we're going to put up his GoFundMe, our good friend Seth Eisenberg from the Conservative Corner. He is a part of our network. As you know, he does the Conservative Corner every Sunday night at 7, but unfortunately, he had a huge infection in his foot. He has had 5 surgeries. He almost lost his foot. The infection went deep into his bone. He now has a high white blood cell count. It goes up between 10, 11, and 12. Which is not good. There may be indications that there is still an infection somewhere else. He said today that he is coming down with some sickness. So he may still have an infection. I know he had some fevers. He was up 100 degrees, 102-degree fever. And we hope to God that he doesn't have to go back into the hospital and get more surgeries. He was in the hospital for 33 days. He has not been able to work. The hospital hasn't really told him when he's allowed to go back to work because he's been in tremendous pain. And because he hasn't been able to work, he hasn't been able to get any income, and he has bills to pay. But he is a veteran. He served in our Navy, and we always give back to our veterans. Seth is such a good man, such a wonderful guy. And he's actually raised, and we'll put up this slide, he's raised over, there you go, if you can see it, over close to $5,300. We are starting the first GoFundMe rate contribution amount, which is $25,000. My goal is to get him to $100,000. And we have a lot of people from Facebook, from X, that have reached out to me, have reached out to Seth and asked, how can we get involved? This GoFundMe was put together by Fred Profiter, who is the president of the Frederick County Conservative Club. Seth Eisenberg does work with Fred. He's the vice president and the treasurer of the Frederick County Conservative Club. So if you know the Frederick County Conservative Club, if you know Seth personally, or even if you don't know him, you can donate to him. And we have people not just from Maryland donating to him, we have people across the country donating to him. So we really appreciate any dollar you can do, whether it's $10, $12, $100. I'll be honest with you, the minimum donation has been $100 to $150. People have not really gone below $100. So they understand that this is a serious thing, that a man, unfortunately, had a huge infection in his foot. It's not his fault. And he hasn't been able to work because of this. And he has a son to support, and he has bills to pay. And we also thank everybody that has contributed so far. We appreciate it. Seth deeply appreciates it. Seth has actually been going on Facebook every day talking about the wonderful donations that he's been getting, and asking people for help. And again, he's close to $5,500. We want to get to that $25,000 goal as fast as possible. And again, like I said, the goal is $100,000. $100,000 would do a lot. If we can do more, that's even better. But I feel that $100,000 for this man who served our nation, this man who has done such wonderful things and has contributed. I can tell you that Seth and Fred Profiter and the Frederick County Conservative Club have helped me put together rallies within days, rallies in regards to combating anti-Semitism and supporting Israel, rallies in regards to bringing back the hostages, and our rallies have been extremely effective. We also did a 1-year vigil for the victims of October 7th, and we've done, and Fred himself has done multiple different rallies, and so has Seth, and they have brought in multiple different guests to their club. Their club meetings is the second Monday of every month. They usually start at 6 or 6:30, sometimes 7, depending on what activity they have or who they have as a guest. But if you want to get involved with the Frederick County Conservative Club, go to frederickcountyconservativeclub.com, reach out to Fred Profiter, reach out to Seth Eisenberg, get involved with the club as well. Again, their meetings is every second Monday of the month in the evening. And it's a great club with like-minded conservatives, people that support President Trump and his policies. and people that are America first. And also Fred and Seth, they do recruit candidates as well, good candidates. They helped 2 conservatives get on the Frederick County School Board. They did help in Washington County as well, getting the 1 conservative on the Frederick County, or excuse me, the Hagerstown City Council. And we have a Republican as the Hagerstown County Mayor. And that's Fred's doing. I mean, Fred knows a lot of people, and that's Seth's doing as well. Seth is also Jewish, so he does a lot of work in the Jewish community with myself. And Seth and I, we were in Frederick on election day. I mean, we stayed at one of the poll booths all day, and people were voting for Trump there, and people were voting for the school board there. So Seth does a lot of work. Seth is a hard worker. Seth hates the fact that he's been sitting in a hospital bed for 34 days. Seth hates the fact that he's been sitting at home and he has to have IVs and he has to have home nurses come to his home. He hates the fact that he can't really wash himself properly. It's very tough. And his heel or his foot has like a hole in it. It's not healing as fast as the doctors would like. And he has home nurses that continuously take his blood all the time to make sure that his white cell blood count doesn't keep going up and up and up. So our prayers go to our good friend Seth Eisenberg, and he will be on our network very soon. We also are going to be starting with our new show, The Pulse, which is going to be Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. It's going to be, I'm not going to say what it's going to be because I don't want to give it away, but we're going to be talking about very interesting topics, topics of the day, past events, current events. We're going to have a 5-person panel. It'll be myself, Damon Galdo, and Seth will be on there as regulars. And then we'll have 2 rotating guests, and we'll have rotating hosts as well. So our first Pulse show is going to be this coming Wednesday, or sorry, not this Wednesday, not tomorrow, but it'll be next week, next Wednesday. And we'll keep you all abreast on that. And it's just going to be every Wednesday night from not 8 to 10, I'm sorry, 8 to 9. I misspoke on that. So it's going to be just an hour show, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And it's 5 p.m. Pacific, and it's going to be a great show. We want all of you to be a part of the Pulse and get involved with the Pulse. And it's going to be a very unique show with, 5 different personalities, 5 different opinions. So it's going to be really great. And don't forget to watch Damon Galdo at the Jersey Shore on Monday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and also Friday nights, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to follow all of us. The Conservative Corner, Jersey Shore, The Pulse, America's Pulse Network, Alexandra Levine Live. We are on Rumble at America's Pulse Network. We're on X at America's Pulse Network. You can also, don't forget to follow me, Alexandra Levine, on Facebook, at Alexandra Levi20 on X, at AR Levine 85 on Instagram, at Levine Consulting on YouTube, at AR Levine 85 on True Social. We also have the America's Pulse Network on YouTube as well. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're interested in sponsoring the entire network or just independent shows, reach out to us on our website, americaspulsenetwork.com. Reach out to us individually on our social medias, and you can always reach out to us at, again, America's Pulse Network on Rumble, America's Pulse Network. We'll be entering Facebook later this month. And of course, we're on YouTube, like I said, at America's Pulse Network. And thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. And the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
Hey!